heavy downpour wasn't enough to stop the 20,026 people from trooping over to the Araneta Coliseum to catch both do-or-die games in the PBA today. That's right, everybody. My name is Cheska and you're watching the PBA. As early as the first game, the gate attendance was already at 20,026, and no doubt these people are also staying to catch the second game, which happens to be another do-or-die game between the Alaska Aces and the Barangay Ginebra Kings. Which team will face the Talk and Text Tropang Texters in the semifinals? Well, you'll just have to wait and see. But for now, let's head over to Chicky Reyes.
It's a full house Big Dome on a rainy PBA Sunday, and everyone inside the Araneta is excited to see how this series will end between these two very popular ball clubs. And our protagonists tonight are the Alaska Aces, who will go up against the Barangay Ginebra Kings for the fifth and final game of their quarterfinal series. Good evening, basketball fans. Chicky Reyes here at courtside, and I will be taking care of the Barangay Ginebra camp. This is the final game, the fifth game, and the 4 games that they have played against each other were all close calls. And I'm talking about the first 4 games of Ginebra against Alaska. In games 1 and 2, Alaska's average winning margin was 3 points. In games 3 and 4, Ginebra's average winning margin was 4 points. Interesting to note too that in the games Alaska won, they have limited Ginebra to less than 90 points, while in the games Ginebra won, the Kings scored more than 90 points. So who will end up facing the Talk and Text Tropang Texters in the semifinals? Will it be the Aces or will it be the Gin Kings?
Jump ball na to, jump ball.
Oh, Ital on a bust down. The rocket takes off.
Yeah, now it's 50-50 chance. Anybody's game, and hopefully we can come up with the same mindset that we had when we were down 0-2.
Simpson will be called for an offensive foul. That will be number 4, and that's big. Elter Brand, yes sir! Ital for 3, yes sir!
Alright, you're going to back here. Alright, and you're going to border over here to the side. Alright?
For 1-5! Yes, the match could have traveled. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Big error here in the part of Georgia Vance.
We're lucky and we worked hard to try to get the game to a Sunday game, and now we're here.
Ginebra wins 94-90. They tie the series at 2 games apiece, setting up a winner-take-all Game 5 on Sunday.
Jason Webb and I did the first 2 games of this series, and the way it went, Alaska's way, I said, I'm not going to work anymore. I won't see you anymore until the next round. But of course, don't tell that to Alaska and Ginebra, because their rivalry is so storied, so colorful, and so full of different sub-themes. So, well, I'm not surprised. It's Sunday and we're still together on a Sunday. It is part of their rivalry that these games are close. Well, there was a sweep last time. That's a thing of the history, of ancient history. This is the present. One team will have to make a stand.
Well, Ginebra was able to turn things around. Like you said, the first 2 games, they were close, Seth. They were close games, but then Alaska was able to finish both games properly, and that's what happened. In the next 2 games, ganun din naman ang ginawa ng Barangay Ginebra. Sila rin were involved in close games, but they were the ones who were able to close it out.
And look at this, the playoff picture. It's getting blurred towards the left side of your screen, towards the right, getting a little clearer for some. This court is still smoking, my friend, from the overtime game earlier.
Well, that's how the playoffs have been. They've been close games. We had one blowout, which was the game of BMEG and Rainerstein in game number 4, but everything has been close. That's what happens when you're in the playoffs, and it just shows how close the talent level of each teams are.
Let's take a look at some of the numbers and see how they size up against each other. It's a close series, but are there any telltale signs that could tilt the balance here?
So let's look at the averages so far. After 4 games, you see that the points so far very close because it's been such a close series. But here's some 2 stats that are that you can quite noticeable. Alaska Aces, the points of the starters, 72 points. On the other hand, for Barangay Ginebra, 50. That means when you go to bench points, konti lang yung sa Alaska, only 11 and 34 for Barangay Ginebra, just showing the depth of the Gin Kings. Next up, the free throw attempts, 25-18. That's surprising because you would think Barangay Ginebra, dumadrive yan, they'd get to the free throw line. But actually, they only had 9 attempts on average in their 2 losses. They were only able to turn things around in games 3 and 4. In turnovers, Alaska's had more turnovers, which have led to Barangay Ginebra running and getting some points off turnovers.
You know, when you get to a playoffs like this, you go more or less to your key players, and you hope that a few surprises will be pulled along the way. As we take a look at 2 graphics, we're going to see that Alaska has relied on a big 3 of their own.
Well, the biggest one is obviously Simpson. Simpson averaging just tremendously, 25.5 points and 17 rebounds. Next up, I would think that the biggest surprise of all of these guys here has to be Joe Devance with his 15 points and over 50% from the field. Cyrus Baguio has got the 14 points, and L.A. Troyo is not there because scoring-wise, he has been very inconsistent, especially in the middle games 2 and 3.
Exactly. Devance was our best player in the second game. And now, if you shift our attention to the other side, a Rocket is back in orbit. And JC Intel, who's gone through an injury, trying to manage it, is back in vogue. And look at this, taking his picture, having his picture taken.
Well, JC Intel has been big, but let's look at what has happened in terms of the fatigue. We talked about the bench of the Gin Kings compared to that of the Aces. Look at the number of minutes. This is total, ha? Lahat na to ng mga bench players na ginamit nila. Ilang minutes ba yung nilalaro nila? 59, 63, 55, and 54. In one game, Seb, there's a total of 240 minutes to be played in a game to be spread out between your starters and your bench players. So you can see right about 25% is only consumed by the bench of Alaska. That's a far cry from that of Ginebra, which is at about 30+%.
Exactly. And somehow Tim Cone has reduced the size of his lineup, sort of concentrating on about 7 or 8 players. And Popix Robinson, of course, was one of the surprises. I was beginning to talk about the Rocket. I sent it into orbit a little too early, but not better late than never, because Ginebra is thankful that he's back in orbit.
But in the first 2 games, he was definitely not there, not a non-factor. Only 2 points, only 7 minutes a game. But look what he's done in the 2 victories, Game 3 and Game 4. 16 points, getting that confidence from that 3-point line. When he makes his 3-point basket, that's when he becomes confident, and that's when he can attack the basket. Of course, he's been given more minutes, and that's why, of course, he's been able to showcase his stuff.
When we get to the most delicious part of this discussion, which is the webpage, which we called last Sunday as the newly energized, reinvigorated. Don't mind that guy who's speaking in the background. Let him talk about the starters. He's our friend Boy Atisa. So let's take a look at the webpage. Who do we begin with?
Let's begin with Alaska right now. For Alaska, ano ba yung mga kailangan nilang gawin para makuha nila itong serye na to? I think number 1, they have to continue to crash the boards. They're in 4 games. 3 out of 4, those 4 games, Alaska has won the battle of the boards, and that's huge because when you look at it, Ginebra is actually the number 1 rebounding team in the league. Although they play 3 small, they rebound the ball very well. So they have to, talking about Alaska, they have to continue to out-rebound the Gin Kings, because if they don't get a lot of rebounds, the Kings will have an opportunity to run. Next up is to find a 4th and a 5th option. Napag-usapan natin kanina, they've got a consistent 3 guys working there. But who's going to be number 4? Is it going to be L.A. Tenorio? Is Saritos going to play today and play big? What about Tony De La Cruz? They need those guys in a close game like this, in a close series, and in this a knockout game that we have today. And finally, stay under control. And this means in many ways than just staying under control. 1, they have to stay under control in terms of speed and tempo. And 2, when the crowd gets involved, Alaska has got to show its experience and to be able to stay under control and manage the crowd in that sense.
In the meantime, as we flip the page, we will take a look at what's the agenda like for Barangay Ginebra, Jason.
Para naman sa Barangay Ginebra, Seb. Number 1, force turnovers and run. Barangay Ginebra doesn't force a lot of turnovers.